now I'm just going to raise the KH level. So they'll just dissolve into the water and help to stabilize the pH. And you got to make sure your KH is not 0, otherwise your fish are in big trouble. And anytime you KH, you want to make sure there's plenty of oxygen going. Never ever add KH to a tank that's stagnant. You want to make sure that it's all nicely aerated. With your water ager works instantly. So what you really want to do is either treat the water before you put the water in the tank, or if you are going to do it like this with a big tank, because filling a big tank like this with buckets takes ages. Like even this hose is on full ball, and it really does take a fair bit of time to fill a tank of this size, which is holding sort of the best part of 1,500 litres. So as it goes up 5 centimetres, then this stuff's super strong. So if you just grab like a nice 3-finger pinch and whack that in like that, then that is going to dechlorinate any chlorine that's in the water, but you can't add it and then fill it. You can only add it to what you've filled. So what you don't want to do is let the water go right down with evaporation and then fill it right up and then add it, because the concentration of chlorine in the tap water can change according to what's going on with the waterboard's water. And if you do get too much chlorine in there, you can sterilize your good filter bacteria, and that can have a negative effect on the fish. So it's safer just to let it go. Fill up a bit, then add a bit of water ager. Fill up a bit, then add a bit of water ager. And then if you want it to be super sensitive, then you could actually fill up the bucket, add the water ager, and put that in the tank. Which if you've got a small tank, is probably quite a good thing to do, but probably not as realistic in a big giant tank like this. And if you're just topping up a small bit at a time, then none of this stuff's actually that important, because it gets diffused into a large volume of water. But if you're doing a big water change, this stuff is really, really important. The other thing to be conscious of is temperature. So it's fairly warm here in Sydney at the moment, so I'm not real worried about the temperature. But if you were going to do a big water change and it's a cold day, then you can actually shock the fish and end up giving them white spot, which is almost like a cold. So you do have to try and watch the temperature. So if you do a water change on your fish and the temperature doesn't drop by more than, say, 1 or 2 degrees, you don't want it to drop more than 1 or 2 degrees. Otherwise, you can shock the fish and then end up with white spot. If they do ever get white spot, what you're going to see is a lot of flicking and scratching of little white spots on the fish and gasping. And if you see that, you want to treat it as fast as you can, because white spot cures are very, very effective if they're added quickly. Don't let it get worse and worse, otherwise you can lose some fish. And then you do need to check your filter, because there are various medias like polyfilter. So this stuff here is so good for polishing your water, but if you do need to medicate, that has to go out of the water, because that will actually remove the medication. So it's just something to remember.